Welcome back to another episode of NFL News on the Boom Bust channel. I'm your host Terry, and today I just had to make a little time to talk about this because this is the most annoying story out there right now that's been going on for a while, and that's this Lamar Jackson stuff. So let's just get straight to the point. These Lamar Jackson defenders and all that, they're flat out wrong. And of course, you got the national media chiming in, making their own narrative. For whatever reason, the national media has always, or the sports media has always decided to pretty much placate to Lamar no matter what it is, even when he's tweeting or whatever. And so fine. I think there's definitely a racial component to that where people are scared, but overall, they've always been placating to Lamar Jackson. So now we're in this situation, and again, everyone continues to just contradict themselves because the media is pretty similar to these fans out on the internet too. And so now we got a lot of people talking about collusion. Let's just get to the heart of the matter. How can it be collusion if you don't even know what's going on? And this is one of the contradictions of many, because people will sit here and say Lamar wants this or Lamar wants that, or I'm not offering Lamar that. And you got fans and media say, well, Lamar didn't ask for that. You don't know what Lamar, we don't know what Lamar asked for. Okay, that's true. You don't know what Lamar's asking for. So how can you sit here and say it's collusion? How can you sit here and say, oh, the NFL is conspiring not to give him what he wants when you don't even know what he wants? You don't have a clue if he's sitting there asking for 300 million guaranteed. You don't know. So how can you sit here and say it's collusion if you don't even know what the terms are? We don't know what the Ravens offered. We don't know what Lamar's asking for or asked the Ravens for. We don't know what he's asking teams for. We don't know any of that. Because I'll say this, to think that no team has called Lamar because they heard online or through the media that he wants a fully guaranteed contract is so stupid. I know he doesn't have an agent, but you can still spread information pretty easily. So if he indeed didn't want a fully guaranteed contract, that would be known to these NFL teams. On top of that, even if he wanted a fully guaranteed contract, that wouldn't stop teams from having a discussion. So again, even the idea that no team has reached out to him, we don't know that that's true, and I don't believe that that's true. But we don't even know. So to sit here and continue to make conclusions to say the teams are colluding against him because they don't want him to have a guaranteed contract. But then the same people will turn around and say, you don't know that Lamar said he wanted a fully guaranteed contract. Exactly. So you can't have it both ways. You really can't have it both ways. And that's the same thing that's happening with everything people talking about Lamar Jackson. Well, his offense, like the one of the craziest parts to me is that the offense is being attacked. That's how that started kind of last year. And it blows my mind because it goes back to Hollywood Brown. He requested a trade. He didn't want to be in that offense. And somehow it became the Ravens' fault. The Ravens screwed Lamar by putting him in his offense. Are you serious? So everybody's going to act oblivious to the fact that Lamar's system is because of Lamar. That was the only way to get him productive. The same way that you saw the Bears struggle, and that's different because they completely gutted their roster on purpose. But still, you saw the Bears struggle and then move to a system that was the only way that Justin Fields could be productive for them. Similar situation with Baltimore. They weren't starting Lamar, then they brought him in and they switched the whole. You think they was running that with Flacco? They switched the whole offense so that it could match what Lamar could do to make him productive. So then we got people, he won MVP. Kyler Murray got a contract. Deshaun Watson got a contract. Blah, blah, blah got a contract. They didn't win MVP. He's MVP level. Now, me, I'll always tell you that was an outlier MVP. He's never going to be able to do that again, ever. And we've seen he has not played to that level since. But regardless of that, people use that as a reason why he deserves XYZ. Okay, so how did he win the MVP in this system? People call him an elite quarterback, a top tier quarterback, a superstar quarterback in his prime in this system. But yet the system is the reason that he's been held back and all this other stuff. I don't understand it. Please make it make sense to me. So the system that is so terrible now and that the Ravens hurt him with also is the same system he won the MVP in. So I don't understand. You can't have it both ways. People are being so contradictory and so blanket. It's just silly. The facts of the matter are, as I said, they put him in that system to make him productive. He was highly productive. The NFL did not catch up to it. Even still, he has great athletic ability. It's hard to stop him, but still, at that time, they were not caught up to what the Ravens were doing. And now they are. So the Ravens, I mean, they haven't, I wouldn't say definitely didn't destroy no top tier teams, but didn't really play with a whole lot of top tier teams. Now we could go to Cincinnati in the playoffs and we talk about that. But overall, since that MVP and even that same year when he won MVP, it's been the same thing. The Ravens have to get that early lead, play defense, run the clock out. When they can't do that, they've shown more times than not they're not going to win the game. And Lamar's not going to win you the game. And so you look at this man, and he has not thrown over 3,000 yards more than once. You can say whatever you want. And I say the same thing about Justin Fields. You say whatever you want about the running being part of it and all this, and that I don't care. It does make you dynamic in terms of what the defense has to worry about, but it does not make you an elite quarterback. I've always pushed against that idea and notion that he's an elite. No, he's not. And the teams are showing you he's not. So we're going to sit here and act. Some people act like he is because he's black, which is silly. Because obviously the first thing people will say, Deshaun Watson. Some people are going to act like it's because he doesn't have an agent. Some people are going to act like because he wants a guaranteed contract. And so we've seen plenty of players without agents make deals. We've seen, again, that we don't know what he's actually asking for to even say is because he wants a guaranteed contract or fully guaranteed contract. So you don't really know. None of those things are valid. The only thing that is valid that everybody seems to want to skip over is that Lamar is not as good as everybody's hyping him up to be. I don't care what anyone says. This situation is not happening with Joe Burrow. This situation is not happening with Mahomes. It's not happening with Josh Allen. It's not happening with Justin Herbert. It's not happening with Jalen Hurts. Partly because how Lamar has chose to handle it as a person in terms of when and what he's saying to put his story and narrative out there, including having his partner reach out to teams. And Lamar, he didn't fully deny. He said he didn't negotiate deals. He was being slick with his words. But even if he did deny it, the NFLPA on documents are the ones that reported him for doing it. So his people that are giving him advice are the same people that reported him. So he's making bad choices. You could try to debate it, but it's no debate. He's making bad choices. That's just making it kind of worse. But outside of that, that's a small part. Outside of that, you're talking about a quarterback who has not shown you that he can be a top tier passer. Point blank, period. Yes, the running is part of it. You're going to lose athleticism. You're going to be opening yourself up to more shots. A lot of teams don't really want to do that. Yes, the tag is part of it. You got to give up 2 first-round picks plus give him this massive contract. But some teams willing to do that with Deshaun Watson. Let's not act like every team. Because if you trade for a player at this point, for whatever reason, if you're able to get that quarterback, you're going to have to give up a lot, and you're going to want to get a long-term contract. So it's similar. So all of those are parts of it, but they're little parts. The biggest part is him as a player. That's all it comes down to. And nobody wants to talk about it. They want to talk about everything else. They want to talk about his mom being an agent. They want to talk about how he's tweeting. They want to talk about collusion. All these things. And what it comes down to is that for what Lamar is, you do not, first of all, they don't want to give any guarantee contracts, but you definitely don't want to give it to a player like Lamar. To be honest, if we really talking about it, Kyler Murray deal is terrible. I mean, Kyler Murray hasn't shown to be a consistent high level player. He runs a lot. I wouldn't say put himself in harm. He don't run like Lamar, but he runs a lot. So he's in harm. And you got more question marks than anything. And I think Lamar's deal would be the same. And so this idea of you next up is just whatever to me. The same thing. Kyler Murray's, again, perfect example. Even though he went technically next up, he kicked and screamed for a contract, and he got one. Just because he was next up, are we sitting here saying that was a great contract? No. So just because you next up don't mean I need to break my bank. So we have people that will say Cleveland had the right to do whatever they want with their contracts, regardless of what it does to the market. Well, how come we can't sit here and say these teams have a right to look at what Lamar's asking for and say no? It's got to be collusion. Or maybe he's just asking for too much. There's that too. They could say, for who you are and what you've given us, we're not willing to pay that. So there's a lot that we don't know. And I'm not ruling out the idea that I would rule out the idea that's collusion, because what's the point? What's the end goal of that? That's why I don't understand, because whoever he signs with is going to pay him a lot of money. So they're going to collude to make sure he goes back to the Ravens. That doesn't make sense. So the Ravens keep him, or they're going to collude to make sure he plays on the tag and then he's a free agent. Then what? Well, I guess you don't have to give up more picks, but you don't know that you're going to get them. So why would the whole league collude for that? And not the whole league don't need them. So I don't believe the collusion even makes sense. But there's a lot that we don't know, and this discussion keeps going, which is fine, but there's so much misinformation like usual, and people just ignoring the fact, look, he's put up stats, he's won games, and so people want to automatically black quarterback, like give him his respect, all that, and I don't care what the quarterback ethnicity is. At the end of the day, football is about context, and it's not just about Lamar. It's all quarterbacks. It's other stuff. People want to just really ignore the rest of the context and simplify it. You have to look at the context. What you do is not, or how, what you do is not as important as how you do it, because it projects what you can do in the future. So Lamar won MVP. Lamar won a playoff game. Lamar has this record. Okay, but look at his team, how he did it, and project, can he do that with us? And I'm guaranteeing you, and a lot of teams are going to say no. Or we would have to change a lot to get to that point. It worked in this context with the Ravens. That does not mean, and that's not just Lamar. That's a lot of quarterbacks. That's a lot of players. That does not mean that is just going to walk into a new situation and be just as good. So that's it. I mean, it's I had to, man. This stuff's bothering me, man. I keep seeing these stupid discussions about Lamar Jackson and his contract. But anyway, go down comment section. Let me know what you think. Share around, get conversation started. Thank you for listening.